Well, guys, this weekend, President Trump officially kicked off March Madness. What are we? Yeah. The big story is that over the weekend, Trump ordered a military strike against Iran. And if you were surprised to see the U.S. attack...
I mean, I could take anybody here. I could go outside on the beautiful streets and pick up a couple of people that do just as well or better. They get higher ratings than he did. He's got no talent. Fallon has no talent. Kimmel has no talent. They're next. They're going to be going. I hear they're going to be going.
Jimmy Fallon smiling while roasting Donald Trump sounds normal until you realize he wasn't smiling like that. Something shifted. The safe, playful, late-night energy turned into something with teeth. And when Fallon decides to drop the friendly act, you know it's not random. So what pushed him there? Was it politics, ratings, revenge, or something nobody saw coming? Because this wasn't just another monologue joke. This felt like a line being crossed.
And tonight we're looking at quotes that could have been said by either President Trump or a cartoon character. All right, let's take a look at our first quote. It's, "I want to go home, Grandma. I don't want to stay here."
Once again, I look at the Democrats in front of me, and I realize there is absolutely nothing I can say to make them happy or to make them stand or smile or applaud. Nothing I can do. I could find a cure to the most
Before we move on, smash that like button and subscribe because you know you don't want to miss out on this one. At 2 a.m., while most of America was asleep and cable news was running reruns, a president was reportedly orchestrating something that sounded like it belonged in a summer blockbuster.
Well, guys, last night President Trump delivered the State of the Union, and good news, he just finished. Yeah, Trump delivered the longest State of the Union address in history, clocking in at 1 hour and 47 minutes. I'm not shocked Trump spoke that long. I'm shocked he stood that long. I mean, by the end, his cankles look like Popeye's arms.
The name alone felt like it had been focus grouped by a room full of action movie interns. Operation Epic Fury. And by the time the headline settled, Jimmy Fallon was already warming up his monologue. Because when politics starts sounding like a rejected Fast and Furious sequel, late night does not stay quiet.
So was Congress. Yeah, in the attack, the U.S. took out Iran's 86-year-old supreme leader. Everyone was like, 86? What'd you do, throw him a surprise party? Could have just popped a balloon. And now nobody knows who's going to take over Iran. As of now, it seems like it's down to Paramount or Netflix.
The story that landed on Fallon's desk revolved around Donald Trump and a reported order for a military strike against Iran. A decision wrapped in big language, bold branding, and a title so dramatic it practically demanded a drum roll.
Oh, that could be him.
That's got to be Trump with some humorous story.
I want to go home, Grandma. I want to stay here. I don't want to stay here.
I don't know why Grandma, though.
I think it's Trump.
What do you think?
Yeah, I think it is Trump.
Trump.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, by round of applause, who thinks it was President Trump? Who thinks it was a cartoon?
Operation Epic Fury was not subtle, and Fallon knew it. The moment he stepped onto the Tonight Show stage, the audience could sense that the usual harmless word play was about to be upgraded into something sharper. Fallon has built a reputation as the friendly face of late night, the host who prefers playful sketches over political warfare. Yet, this was one of those moments when the absurdity of real life did most of the comedic heavy lifting. Instead of launching into outrage, he leaned into irony. He described the reported operation in a tone that hovered between disbelief and amusement, as if he were summarizing a pitch meeting where someone insisted that subtlety was overrated. What truly caught Fallon's attention, however, was not just the name of the operation, but the imagery surrounding it. Reports suggested that discussions were taking place from Mar-a-Lago, which Fallon jokingly reimagined as a makeshift situation room. In his telling, the traditional high-security command center with maps, generals, and tense silence was replaced with gold chandeliers, patio furniture, and waiters weaving through critical briefings with trays of shrimp cocktails. He painted a picture with theatrical detail, imagining aides whispering updates about missile trajectories, while a wedding reception rehearsed in the next ballroom. The contrast was irresistible. In Fallon's version, the world's most serious decisions were being debated just steps away from a dessert buffet, and the tension of geopolitics collided headfirst with the optics of a Florida resort.
The operation against Iran is called Epic Fury, which I'm pretty sure is a new Mountain Dew flavor, which is excellent. Epic Fury. It sounds like a Jackie Chan movie released directly to streaming. You know? When did he make that? Meanwhile, Trump watched the operation play out from Mar-a-Lago in a secure area that was shielded with a curtain. Nothing says secure area like a curtain.
Rather than deliver a harsh critique, Fallon allowed the humor to build naturally from the imagery. He described a scenario in which someone had to pause a strategy session because the Wi-Fi password had expired or because the lighting was better by the pool. The joke was not just about Trump, but about the surreal blend of spectacle and statecraft that has come to define modern politics as the audience laughed. Fallon shifted gears into one of his signature moves, the comedic interview. Instead of quoting the president directly, he brought out a Trump impersonator, turning the segment into a playful back and forth that felt less like a debate and more like a theatrical performance. The impersonator delivered exaggerated bravado about Operation Epic Fury, boasting about the name as though it were a personal branding triumph rather than a military decision. Fallon played the straight man, asking questions that sounded reasonable on the surface, but were carefully designed to highlight the absurdity. He wondered aloud how long it took to come up with the operation's title, whether there had been a short list that included even more dramatic options, and whether the branding meeting involved someone suggesting fireworks for the announcement. The impersonator responded with over-the-top confidence, claiming that the name was the strongest, most epic name in the history of operations, and that other countries were probably jealous of its cinematic quality.
Trump actually broke 2 records, longest State of the Union and most time in the same room as Melania. Isn't that amazing? Isn't that amazing? 2 records last night. Way to go. It turns out if you don't play him off with YMCA, he'll just keep going. It's like, just hum it, just hum it. Just get him going. The speech went on for so long that Marco Rubio had a growth spurt.
The exchange worked because Fallon did not need to raise his voice or deliver biting commentary. He simply allowed the exaggerated persona to reveal the punchline. Underneath the humor, however, there was a subtle thread of tension. The topic itself was serious. Military strikes, international conflict, and the potential consequences of escalating tensions with Iran are not inherently comedic. Fallon walked a careful line, acknowledging the gravity without letting the monologue turn heavy. He relied on the surreal optics of the situation rather than the specifics of warfare, keeping the focus on the branding and the location rather than the battlefield. That balance is what made the segment resonate. Viewers who tune into late night for escapism found themselves laughing at the theatrical elements, while those who follow politics closely recognized the deeper commentary about spectacle and leadership. Fallon did not position himself as an analyst dissecting foreign policy. Instead, he acted as a cultural observer, pointing out how surreal the moment felt. The mention of Mar-a-Lago became a recurring motif throughout the segment. Fallon imagined staff members scrambling to convert a lounge into a command center complete with extension cords, oversized television screens, and a whiteboard borrowed from a conference room. He joked about the possibility of generals standing awkwardly beneath ornate paintings while discussing sensitive intelligence, as if the setting itself refused to match the seriousness of the conversation.
Well, let's see who said it.
I want to go home, Grandma. I don't want to stay here.
Don't let me do it, Grandma.
All right, here is our next quote. The hair found me. It was my destiny.
Shoot.
It feels like it could be a
Feels
trick.
like a trick question.
Yeah, because it's clear.
He's got that hair.
I don't think he would ever say,
My hair found me.
As the laughter built, Fallon returned to Operation Epic Fury, marveling again at the title. He compared it to the name of a monster truck rally or a theme park ride, suggesting that somewhere a Hollywood producer was taking notes. The humor was layered because while the name sounded cinematic, the implications were anything but fictional. The comedic interview continued with Fallon pressing the impersonator about the decision-making process. He asked whether the operation came with a logo, whether there was a commemorative hat, and whether a soundtrack had been considered. The impersonator leaned into the parody, insisting that the branding was essential and that the operation's name alone was enough to intimidate adversaries. By keeping the tone playful, Fallon avoided descending into partisan hostility. He did not frame the segment as an attack, but as an exploration of how modern politics often blurs the line between governance and performance. The audience was invited to laugh at the spectacle rather than take sides in a policy debate. At one point, Fallon described the hypothetical makeshift situation room as having a slight echo from the marble floors, forcing aides to repeat classified updates louder than they intended. The image was ridiculous, Yet it captured the underlying irony of discussing global conflict in a space designed for luxury and leisure.
But it actually was a nice change. This time, Trump spoke and everyone else fell asleep. Hey. Yeah, an hour and 47 minutes, and that's not counting the post-credits scene where Trump put on the Dr. Doom helmet. I knew that wasn't gonna work, but you know what? Some of these jokes are just for me, you know? I just think that. In his speech, Trump declared the country bigger and richer than ever before. Then he added, well, at least.
The brilliance of the segment lay in its pacing. Fallon did not rush through the jokes. He allowed each image to breathe, building a narrative arc that started with disbelief at the operation's name, expanded into a full-blown visual comedy sketch about Mar-a-Lago, and culminated in an impersonated interview that tied everything together. Throughout the monologue, Fallon maintained his signature warmth. Even as he poked fun at Trump's branding instincts and the optics of a Florida-based command center, he avoided cruelty. Fallon seized that opportunity, turning what could have been a dry policy discussion into a vivid, absurd tableau as the impersonator wrapped up the fictional interview, boasting about the unmatched greatness of Operation Epic Fury. Fallon closed the segment by stepping back into his own voice. He acknowledged with a grin that the world is complicated and serious, yet sometimes the way events are packaged makes them feel like scenes from a blockbuster film. That closing note brought the audience full circle. The laughter did not erase the seriousness of international tensions, but provided a release valve.
Trump was in a makeshift situation room at Mar-a-Lago, and the photo is going viral. This is real. Take a look. There it is there, yeah. I'm pretty sure it's the first war to ever be started next to an omelet station. You know what I'm saying? Don't worry, Mar-a-Lago uses cybernetic, multi-tiered verification process where the password is password. But Trump had all his top officials there for the strike, like the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, the director of the CIA, and the My Pillow.
Fallon's monologue served as a reminder that humor can coexist with gravity, offering perspective without pretending to solve the underlying issues. By the end of the night, Operation Epic Fury had been transformed from a headline into a cultural moment. The name that once sounded intimidating now carried a layer of late-night irony. The image of a makeshift situation room at Mar-a-Lago lingered in viewers' minds, equal parts glamorous and absurd in the broader landscape of late-night television. The segment stood out because it showcased Fallon stepping slightly outside his comfort zone. He did not abandon his playful persona, but he allowed himself to engage more directly with a politically charged story. The result was a monologue that felt both timely and distinctly his own. The real takeaway was not whether Fallon agreed or disagreed with the decision itself. By holding up a mirror to the spectacle, he invited viewers to question not just the decision, but the presentation. And perhaps that is why the segment resonated beyond a usual late-night audience. It was not simply about Jimmy Fallon calling out Trump. It was about examining how political power, branding, and media collide in ways that often feel surreal. Fallon did not need to shout to make his point. He let the imagery speak, the impersonator boasted, and the audience connected the dots.
Well, guys, earlier today, New York City Mayor Zoran Mamdani made a surprise visit to Washington to meet with President Trump. Yeah, this was Mamdani's second time in the Oval Office, and weirdly enough, it was also Trump's. Yep, Mamdani and Trump strangely get along, even though they have nothing in common. It's like seeing a video of a horse that became friends with a duck, you know? Speaking of visits to Washington today, Netflix CEO Ted Sarandos went to the White House to discuss the streamer's potential deal with.
When the credits rolled, the laughter still echoed, but so did the underlying curiosity about how a world of chandeliers and classified briefings could intersect so seamlessly. In that space between comedy and commentary, Fallon found his rhythm, turning Operation Epic Fury into something unforgettable for entirely different reasons than its creators may have intended. What made the moment even more fascinating was how quickly the segment traveled beyond the studio audience and into the broader cultural conversation. Within hours, clips of Fallon's monologue were circulating online, and the phrase Operation Epic Fury began to carry an entirely new tone. The mere act of placing a military operation alongside the visual of a Florida resort created a contrast so sharp that it almost wrote itself. In the age of social media, optics are everything, and Fallon understood that highlighting those optics would resonate more than dissecting policy details ever could.
I know. What do you think?
Maybe it's a cartoon of Trump.
Yeah.
Well,
No, that's too deep. We wouldn't
right,
do
we're
that.
not going to go meta. Yeah.
What is it? The hair found me? He would
Hair found
do that, right?
Yeah, he'd never say that.
He would never. He loves it.
Gosh, see, that's. It sounds so unlike him that I'm going to say it is him.
All right. Who thinks it was Trump? Who thinks it was a cartoon character?
He subtly returned to the idea that modern politics often feels like performance art where branding decisions can overshadow substance. The name Operation Epic Fury became symbolic of that phenomenon. Fallon joked that somewhere a graphic designer was probably disappointed that the official logo did not feature flames shooting out of the letters, and the audience laughed not just at the absurdity, but at how plausible it felt. As the conversation continued in the days that followed, commentators debated whether late-night hosts should wade so directly into stories involving military action. Fallon's approach offered a case study in balance. He avoided graphic descriptions, avoided fear-driven commentary, and instead focused on theatrical framing surrounding the announcement, "I am doing so." He kept the tone light while still engaging with a serious subject. Fallon's questions were simple on the surface, yet they nudged the audience toward a deeper reflection about how decisions are communicated and consumed. At one point, an extended version of the sketch, Fallon imagined a scenario in which the makeshift situation room required a quick reset because a wedding DJ accidentally tapped into the same audio system.
During his address, Trump awarded 2 Purple Hearts, 2 Medals of Honor, a Medal of Freedom, and a Legion of Merit. And that was just to himself. Oh. Yeah. Meanwhile, Trump never mentioned the Epstein files once. The Epstein files were like, "That's so rude. We mentioned you 37,000 times." How rude! How rude! At one point during the State of the Union, viewers noticed the president's microphone sounded completely
The mental image of military briefings briefly interrupted by a bass drop was absurd, but it reinforced the theme that the setting itself felt surreal. By exaggerating the setting rather than the stakes, Fallon kept the humor accessible without trivializing real-world consequences. What stood out most was Fallon's ability to maintain his signature charm, even while addressing a headline that could have easily spiraled into outrage. These shows are no longer confined to a specific time slot. A well-crafted segment can shape the public's perception of a story long after the studio lights dim. In this case, Fallon's playful take on Operation Epic Fury ensured that the name would forever carry a layer of comedic association. As the dust settled, the bigger question lingered in the background. Was Fallon simply doing what late-night hosts have always done, or was it a subtle shift in his approach to political humor? The answer likely lies somewhere in between.
And we actually got audio of his meeting with Trump. Oh, check it out.
Thank you for agreeing to meet with me, Mr. President.
Of course, I love Netflix. You guys make us a cake, right?
That's right.
Is this cake?
No, sir, that's your desk.
Is this cake?
That's a pen.
Is this cake?
That's your phone.
Is this cake?
That's a Diet Coke.
Cake?
Lamp.
Cake?
Stapler.
Cake?
Chair.
Cake?
Other chair.
Cake?
Rug.
Cake?
Don Jr.
Hey, Dad. Shut up. Cake?
Couch.
Cake?
Curtain.
Cake?
Those are the Epstein files.
I'm gonna eat them.
But they're not cake.
I don't. Help me finish so quick.
Isn't that interesting, right? I thought it was cake. Well, guys, I read that 28 million people watched Trump's State of the Union, but
Yet, he demonstrated a willingness to step closer to the edge when the absurdity of a headline demanded it. In the end, the segment was less about confrontation and more about contrast. It juxtaposed grandeur with gravity, spectacle with seriousness, and branding with consequence. They carried with them the image of the so-called situation room beneath golden ceilings and the realization that in today's political landscape, even the most serious announcements can feel like scenes from a carefully produced show. Fallon simply took that feeling and amplified it, transforming a headline into a moment of cultural commentary that lingered long after the laughter faded.